All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show for VR Master League. This is going to be the Season 1 Challenger Cup B. We saw the A1, and it was A1, which is to say saucy. It was hot yesterday. A lot of fun for sure. But today we're coming right back at you with the second part. Following those European Challenger Cups as well, just a few hours ago. So lots of busyness today. And for this kind of pre-game, little warm-up pre-show, whatever you want to call it, we got the panel here. I'm Palidore, got SirDimwi, So Much for Subtlety, SputnikKobra, Swiift, and Wit all joining. And we're just going to run through some of these teams and also what to expect in the first round. So with that said, Spaghetti and Space Force, do you want to do your thing, Dimwi? And let's let you host this one a little bit. What do you got for me?
Yeah, this is a fun matchup here between these two teams, both competing in the regular season. Space Force, no, excuse me, that's a wrong one. I wanted to start with Spaghetti. Yeah, Spaghetti.
You always got to
Mini
start
Hat,
with spaghetti.
one of our newer caster buddies. Spaghetti ended the season ranked in the gold tier, an MMR of 1230. They are led by Mini Hat as well, with Meatballer, Ow, Y-Perm, Azon, and Isolate. They did end the season with a record of 13 and 12, and I'm looking to see if these two teams did play in the regular season. It does look like they did not. So this will be their first official matchup here against Space Force. Space Force ending with an MMR of 1160. They're led by Lanzan, and he's with Arrow Knight, Anime for Life, Ender's Lot, Power Polar Bear, and of course Ender's Lot, the fabled level 51, the only level 51 in the game. One of the most prolific pub players that you're ever going to find, and also a great guy.
Yeah.
But they ended the season 13 and 13, and yeah, as I said, they did not play each other in the season. So I'm curious how they're going to match up here, and I'm curious what Space Force in particular is going to be coming out of the gate with.
Yeah, definitely. Both two teams, I mean, Spaghetti, we kind of know what they're all about here in Season 1. And dating back to preseason, they were initially a surprise team. Less of a surprise these days. People know the name of Spaghetti for sure. And a lot of strong games we've seen from them, hence why they're in the gold division, after all. Meanwhile, for Space Force, that's more of the X Factor team in the sense, I think, because started off slower into the season, and as it progressed, they got better and better. Now, especially in that last month, there were a handful of games in there for Space Force where they absolutely they were looking like just a different team in the sense that they couldn't be stopped. Everything was connecting in terms of passes and shots. The goalkeeping, phenomenal. Got to shout out Anime for Life, especially kind of impressing there on that end, showing the goalkeeping skills. But I mean, just that's the X factor here. If Space Force shows up like they have in some of these recent games, that could be a really interesting matchup, I think.
Yeah, and they're that team that everyone's just kind of waiting for them to pop off because these are players that have been around for a while. And I remember I had asked Lanzan this on the podcast, and the way I phrased it wasn't the best, but I had asked him, how did you get Anime for Life, Ender's Lot, and like Aaron Knight? Like, how did you get these guys? Because they're guys who've been around for a while, but just weren't on teams, weren't playing in comp. I played with Ender's Lot in one game back in you've heard about this a million times. In excuse me, it wasn't one game, it was several games, but it was one day back in the ESL season 2.
Right.
It was with Hasko as well, and our first game, of course, as you know, was against Eclipse. But yeah, you didn't really see Ender's Lot around comp too much other than that. And now we see him playing basically the full season here, a full 26 games with his team, and so really curious. Well, not so much curious, but yeah, everyone's just kind of waiting for them, as I said, to pop off, to find their footing, to get that team chemistry down, and really just start surprising people. And today, maybe could be their day here.
Well, if there's a day to do it, it's gonna be today. Obviously, with all the stakes on the line, the season on the line. If I mean, you're not coming ahead here at number one. You're going home for the season. Unfortunately, that is the case. The regular season is over. We're rolling down, winding down, and it's just getting more and more exciting with some really fun matches to come. Yesterday, it got insanely hyped across all three channels for VRML's Twitch, and I mean, peaking out at 109 viewers, season high so far, and I'm sure that's gonna grow all the more, especially going into finals qualifiers and championships and such. But there was just a lot of exciting games, some round threes, some upsets or near upsets occurring. There's a lot of stuff at play for sure. So yeah, two teams to watch there. I mean, again, today's the day to do it. But here we'll transition over to the next one real quick, and it will be Ignite facing off against Protostar. On that note, what can you tell us about them, Dimwi?
A little bit. We'll start with Ignite. They did end the season up in gold there, an MMR of 1220. They're led by Wolf 23. That's with an L. It's not Wolf, it's Wolf 23. As well as he's with Far, NTS France, VTS King, and Duel. And if you're not too privy on who's who, but the name Ignite rings a bell, you've probably seen them in your pub games. They have that bot that goes through and picks up the stats. And actually, you can go to the website that the bot advertises, and you can actually check out the stats, the pub stats that it's picked up on you,
You know what?
and see how you do there. What's up?
And shout out to Ignite. They got some Ignite merch coming soon. I'm on the list. Just wanted to say that. Support the homies. But yes,
If it's anything like that jersey they had that I saw Sputnik repping, I would definitely be interested because that was a great jersey. I wish I could get my hands on one of those.
yeah.
But yeah, they ended the season with a record of 11-12. But like I said, up in gold there, and of course they have not played any games against Protostars. Protostars are a new team, but not particularly new players. Players actually I know really well. So they're led by RDG, previously known as Arthur Guinness, who was our rostered
Well,
substitute
hold on. I
on
think
Nova.
I think you mean Arthur Gambit.
Arthur Gambit. You are correct. Arthur Gambit. And he's with Essen, who was my line mate on Nova. And they're with a Five Spotted Dog and Really Reels. And what I really appreciate about the team name is Nova. So Nova, is like a supernova, a star exploding.
Yeah.
And the kind of the thought behind that was like, we're stars, we're coming out, we're going to explode on the scene. And then when Nova ended, we were replaced with the quote unquote new captain, the new owner of the team is Neutron, for a neutron star. So that's
Jimmy?
after
Oh.
not Jimmy. So that's a star after it's exploded and it doesn't collapse to a black hole. It'll go to a neutron star, and yada yada yada. But what's interesting, protostar is kind of the exact opposite of that. A protostar is one. It's not actually a formed star yet. It's really a cloud of dust that's yet to form into a star. That's why it's a protostar. And so, kind of the idea of a renewal or starting over, starting fresh. And RDG got the bug when he was with us on Nova.
Glad to hear
And and so he's definitely he decided to start his own team, and he did. He picked up Essen, Five Spotted Dog, and Really Reels, all friends from Bear League, as we call it. So they have no record on the season, no MMR, and I'm very curious I'm really excited to see how they play today, how they come out of the gate as a new team here.
Yeah, for sure. Both these teams just full of quality, not only players, but just quality people, personalities. Can't speak highly enough of so many of these players. Speaking of Arthur Guinness, even when I'm doing some of the camera testing and asset testing in public games and spectating, I see him all the time, just helping out newer players and just being a really positive contributor on that end. Introducing people into the game, and then you got people on Ignite. All these guys, such long-term players as well, and some of the nicest guys that I know in Echo all around. I mean, just again, it's going to be a fun match, and I think with all this veteranship and also just the good personality factor, I'm thinking that's going to be a match with some good vibes going on, if nothing else. But moving on here, we got Wireless Jax facing off, and this is going to be. Needless to say, going to be an interesting one between them and Remainder. Remainder forming here very recently, but certainly the names on that team not unfamiliar to anyone who's watched any Echo across the last 5 months here in VR Master League.
No, not unfamiliar at all. But before we get to them, we'll start with the Wireless Jacks team, a roster that we know and love. They did end the season up in silver with an MMR of 1200, a record of 13-12. They did kind of catch fire a little bit, but of note, they picked up a Venom. Now, he may just be a rostered backup. I'm not certain. As I'm looking at the roster on the website, looks like they brought him main roster, maybe playing with Gilligan, Blitz, and Will I Am, with Lemon QT and the Alchemy picking up those single bars there. So I'm curious to see how that's going to play out, because if they're bringing Venom in on the roster, I can tell you from firsthand, another ex-teammate of mine, he is one of the best offensive players I know. He's a playmaker, a shooter. He's absolutely phenomenal. So I'm really excited to see how they stack up against this new team, but not new faces of Remainder. A team started by B Love. Somebody I was on a team with him technically for about 3 days, and
Yeah,
over those
few
3 days,
hours.
the work, yeah, a few hours. The work me and him put in together, I know what caliber of player he is, and he's a very gifted player. And he's bringing in some other gifted players with him. Mamba,
Hmm.
recently, of I think he was on Infinite at one point as a backup, and then he was on
Chaos.
Chaos for a short time, and now he's found his way onto Remainder here, and now he's joined by with Mizuchi, kind of the legendary goalkeeper from the CVRE League
Yeah.
for St. Clair, and now also making his name in competition. And he's definitely one of the hottest hands in the league. A phenomenal goalie he is, and you got to watch out for his. He loves to bait those long threes. He'll come out and grab them anyways. And they're joined by Skyla, also known as Sheila. Skyla, definitely a talented player in his own right. One of a really really good player there. I believe he was on Legends prior to this. And yeah, really excited to see what Remainder is going to be able to do. Of course, they've only been a team for a short time, so their chemistry is, we're looking to see what that's going to be. But given the names on that team, I don't think they're going to have too much trouble working together. And they're definitely set to give Wireless Shacks a run for their money.
Yeah, absolutely. It will be fun to watch. Wireless Jacks have been mighty hot over the last several weeks, last month really, and the remainder. I can only assume the title of this team, kind of just a nod to the fact that these are players who are experienced. They have been on various teams. They are the remaining players of these teams that they kind of left or otherwise have disbanded across preseason, season one. I mean, again, a lot of roster changes, a lot of teams, a lot of players. It's gonna happen. But trying to find their foothold here and maybe cause some upsets and surprise some people for sure. So if anyone else has anything to add to that, or just any anecdotes as well, feel free. Don't mean to freeze anyone out here, but it's just yeah, I'm interested in this match. And by the by, this will be the one that is streamed here on Channel 1 in another 12 minutes or so. 11, 12 minutes. So be on the lookout for that. But moving on one more time. And actually, I'm just realizing I've been doing a bad job of this all weekend, keeping up with the comments. But hi, people. Suburban saying Ignite might be the longest standing unchanged roster over there. Talk on Thursday. Hi, Palidore. Hi. As well as The Law. Saw The Law yesterday as well. And JL Graham. But yes, hello, everyone. So, I'm going to try and do a better job today, promise. But yes, for the next matchup here, it will be Genesis versus Wrath.
Yeah, this is so another new team technically. But before we get to them, Genesis, a team that's been here for basically the whole season. They played a full 24 games. They ended in silver with a MMR of 1170, a record of 11-13. They're led by H Money SD. They're with Choco Lit, the one man speed multiplier. He's one of the most notable boosters in the league.
Let me tell you something real quick. If I were to make any kind of return, and even to semi-competitive, like a for fun cup, I'd be very curious to teaming up with Chocolate because the stacks. I mean, I really enjoy the speed. I've been playing more Echo lately again, and finding a good boosting partner. It's like nothing feels better than just flying through the air and going end to end of the floor, and what amounts to basically a second, a split second, and you're there. So Chocolate absolutely has been lighting it up, and you saw I think with Genesis when Chocolate joined Genesis, the immediate effect. Like first he came up as a substitute after Nebula had disbanded, and then after a match or two joined the full roster because it was just night and day how much quicker they got just by adding that single player to the roster.
Yeah, no, and it definitely feels good when you find someone that you can you boost really well with. There's something about that. I mean, it's almost a freeing feeling because yeah, you just feel like someone opened the gate and you took off. But yeah, continuing on the roster there. So after Chocolate, they've also got Jay Tabaka or Jay Tabaka. I'm not sure how to say it. I
Baker.
still say Jay Tabaka,
Jada Baker.
and that's how I'm going to say it. They're joined by Caden and Knife Rich pulling it up on the roster sub list there. Although Knife Rich does play with them rather frequently, so wouldn't be surprised to see him here today. But yes, on to that technically new team. Now, they are a new team, and they do bring a new player to comp with them. But it's really the remnants of Deception. They are led by I Blow It Sports, and he's bringing along with him Dollar Ranger and Link One from Deception, kind of the core of their team there. And then they bring along with them a player that I've played with quite a few times in privates, and he is one of the best shooters I've ever played with, by the name of Chuck Not Norris. This guy, when he plays in our competitive or non-competitive Friday night games, he fires off. I mean, you talk about players popping off in a game. That's how Chuck Not Norris plays.
That's how Chuck
Uh,
Norris wakes up out of bed. He pops up. He
yeah,
wakes up and somehow he has 30 points. It's uncanny. And I
it,
absolutely
he,
agree because even my limited experience with him, and it was limited, but in some of the mixed matches I had about a year ago, I had a couple of games with him. I knew of the names sort of, but hadn't really played with him before. For a full hour, maybe 2 hours, uh, he blew up the goal so many times, easily leading the score among all of our players in that match for the full couple hours. It was ridiculous. And then we saw him as a substitute earlier in the season as well, a couple times. Same thing. He popped off. He's one of those interesting players. I just can't help but wonder, why isn't he on a team? Is this by choice? Has he not reached out? What's the deal? Because a player like him of his caliber absolutely should be on one of these upper level teams if he wanted to be, I feel like, because he is just strong.
yeah, and Chuck Not Norris definitely one of those types of players, and really, I think I even expressed my excitement to him. Just I'm so excited to see him play, and I can't wait for him to prove his ability to the rest of the league. Not that he needs to, but he's going to. I mean,
He,
that's just
he he'll
that's just how
he'll
it is.
he'll be one of those cases where we talk about again a lot of veteran players joining the league that haven't maybe played before, played recently. I mean, we saw Hazza over on Tint, who's actually next and last here on our coverage of this pregame. But Hazza joining Tint, he was back in the day. I considered especially every time I played with him in the day and age where passing wasn't as much of a thing yet. He was such a good teammate, but also good striker, just good passer. He could do a little bit of it all. He stepped in there and has been impressing. Oculus Satyr for the now former Skull Crusaders. Same thing. Long-time player. We knew he was skilled. We knew, in pubs he was, puts up high-scoring numbers. But then he joins VRML, gets into competitive, and he puts up huge scoring numbers as well and really kind of shows his stuff. We talk about Saluna over on Mirage, who joined in the last few weeks. Same thing, longtime player, unknown commodity, however, in competitive play, and yet absolutely popping off week after week for the last 3 or 4. So I think Chuck Knock Norris, he's going to follow kind of in those footsteps if he wants to. And really, not to not to put all the pressure if he happens to be listening. That's probably a bad thing for me to start doing right now. But I mean, just saying, in general, he is such a strong player. I would not be surprised to see his name kind of on that list of competitive commodities going into season 2. That a lot of interest is going to be fielded that way. Now, with that, we will move on to our final match that we're covering on this first round and our final 2 teams. Of course, 5 rounds to be played today, so plenty to come. But here we go. It will be There Is No Team and Reboot. So, Dimwi, what you got?
All right, so this is no new teams here. Teams that have been around for quite a bit in the league, and so we'll start with There Is No Team, also known as Tent. They are led by Gagasm, and he is with Fair Enough, Huzzah, White Dragon, and Arad David N. White Dragon and David both being notably being uh, developers of the game. And then, of course, also notable on the team, I mean, Gagasm, Fair Enough, and Huzzah, 2 players that have been around for longer than I have.
2
Uh,
finalists at that.
Yeah, I mean these are some incredibly talented players, and this is an incredibly talented team that has been improving week to week. And it wasn't their individual play so much that needed improvement, although some rust to shake off at the start there. But it was just that getting back in the comp, getting your team chemistry down, which you talk about, is so important when you're playing in a league like this. Excuse me. And yeah, so they're definitely looking to make something happen here. They did end the season in silver with an MMR of 1170, record of 12-11, and they didn't actually look to see. I don't know if these two teams played. They might have. As I look through, it doesn't look. They did once. Back in, I think it's week, maybe not week 2, but very early in the season, back on March 8th. And there is a team did take that one in too, but notable reboot has gone through a few roster changes through the season. And so they're in today, led by Dipman, who's been there from the beginning. And their primary roster, as is listed on the website, is going to be Do It To Him, Neon, and Shake and Bacon Sandwich. All players that have kind of shown up in the league here. Neon, Dip, I know them very well personally. They're also joined by 17 Charge and Delusion. And I gotta embarrass 17 Charge here a little bit because I played a series of games with them last Friday. Not yesterday, not this past Friday, but the Friday before. And it was a fun night. But periodically he would just announce, "Give me, I'm gonna grab the disc. I'm gonna grab the disc. I'm gonna eat it." And that was it. I got it. I got it. I'm gonna eat it. I'm gonna eat it. And he did it over and over again, and it never worked. I kept telling him.
Well,
I think it was game 3. Finally, I was like, "Dude, stop eating it. It's just not working."
you know
And
what?
but it was a lot of fun.
Maybe today is the day it's going to work. You never know.
Maybe so. And yeah, so they did finish with an MMR of 1060, a record of 6-16. And yeah, I'm curious how they're gonna perform today with whatever roster they come out with.
Absolutely. Well, with that said, now we're approaching that start time here. Still a few minutes to go. But yeah, we're gonna redirect, switch off the camera duties actually to wit and subtlety here. So we're gonna end the stream just briefly. But on this channel, it will be Wireless Jacks facing off against Remainder, and then on channel 2 should be Genesis and Wrath. So we're gonna sort ourselves out there, and yeah, definitely join us and enjoy these matches today. We'll be right back.